Good morning. Bob Barron here talking to you. I got several things I want to share this morning. This happens to be Monday. It's March 24th. But first of all, I want to make a correction about the earthquake reports I gave. I made that thing a couple of days ago. But the report was that there had been an earthquake in Mojave, California on the 21st of March, which would be last Friday, I believe. And it was reported as a 5.2, but then the USGS Geological withdrew that, and I didn't know why until just yesterday, which was on Sunday. But they said actually that quake was not there, but was actually down in Baja, Mexico, about several hundred miles to the southeast. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that, because I don't like to leave bad information. I don't ever want to give bad information, actually, because then people carry it around for the rest of their lives. So anyhow, they said it was a computer glitch, but knowing how they detect earthquakes and even measure the depth and such, they have usually many stations that are recording the information when the earth starts to move, and that's how they triangulate and pinpoint. So something happened, but I'm glad they apologized or told they made a mistake. Mistakes are what we human beings do. So the Mojave quake reported on Friday, the 21st, was not there. It was way down there in Baja, Mexico. That's the correction. There are other things to share this morning, and I've been looking through some stuff here. I got all kinds of, you can see all the books and all sorts of things I have, but I came across a poem that I'd written. I don't even know when I wrote this, and I don't really write poetry regularly, but I think I looked at this. I took it out of the book I had put together. But I thought I might share this morning because it says something, and I think that there's always something we want to share when we're writing or speaking or whatever we're doing to communicate with other people. It's called In a Small Town. This town has been a crossroads in my life for many years. To and from Berkeley, to the mountains and down south to home. While walking in the bright, clear light of this sparkling sunny day, I had pangs of loneliness, remembering all those people I've taught over the years, all grown up and gone now. I looked from the balcony tonight at the 2/3 moon rising, and the red lights of cars receding into the dark of the freeway, another real crossroad, and names and faces came back from all the trips, with friends and family, on that road from there to here. I loved it all, and I miss it. But I do not like to repeat my life over and over, and that's why I'm here, looking, remembering, wondering, what's next? That going from Berkeley down south went on for years because my mother was in a convalescent hospital for about 7 years, in and out actually. And truthfully, I made probably hundreds of trips. Driving sometimes, taking the train other times. It's kind of fun, sit on the train for 8 hours coming down here. Could walk right to the station in Berkeley. It's pretty neat. But then the last part of that, I do not like to repeat my life over and over. I guess it's quite true. And when I read that, I thought, gee, that really says something about me because of the different jobs I've had and such, and the fact that I still like to go to school and learn things. Speaking of school, a friend I worked with about a year ago said, I think I probably went to more colleges than you ever went to. Well, it was a challenge I didn't even expect. I had never really kept track of the colleges, but he kind of put me on on notice, and so I made a list of those one day, and I thought, my goodness, yeah, starting with when I was only 18, going to the University of Illinois, then all these years I've gone to about 10 colleges and universities in my lifetime. And I guess it says something, but my friend had gone to many also. I think it tells you probably more like we start school, maybe we have to pull out. Myself, I had to, because I got drafted and had to make money and all that. So it does take a few times of commitment to go to different colleges and universities to even get a BA. But what kind of surprised me when I made this little list for myself, just in the last 10 years, from my age 68 to my age 78, which is what I am now. I've gone to 4 colleges and 2 universities. I taught at a couple of colleges, actually. And when I looked at the units of what I had done, the classes, and this is not a brag, it's just a revelation kind of to me, and it may be an affirmation for you also. I've taken some 26 classes in the last decade, and 4 of those were required for me to get a credential in order to teach, that is a certificate to teach in college level reading. And then a couple more recently have been, for learning things I just never had a chance to learn before. And that kind of put some other ideas into my head this morning. And that's the way my mind works. I wake up early and ideas seem to come together, and I think about things. I look something up, a poem, and it makes other ideas come, and I look at this list and something else happens. So I was a park ranger in Grand Canyon National Park. It's been over 20 years ago now. That was north side, and it's a magnificent, beautiful place. If you've never been there, I really highly recommend it. But of course, it's a place with rocks, earth history, lots of it, gorgeous. But being a park ranger, even in a national park, we talk about things, we do study things, but we don't have a chance oftentimes to study things in depth. And geology is what I recently had a chance to study. This was about a year ago. And it's fascinating because they no longer call it the science geology, it's called earth science. Earth system science, because they put everything together now. It's not just the earth, the rocks, the soil, it's the weather, the astronomy. So many things that come together that shape our earth and our world and actually shape us. But I pulled out just 2 rocks from my collection. They're really fascinating. This is pretty because it's got different colors in it. It's very smooth rock, even kind of gem quality, I guess. And then this one that's got these little pits in it that tell us little animals lived in this thing, Can you see that? I hope so. Then that was in mud, and then it got hardened, changed into a rock, more or less. But no, so I think maybe a lot of us like stones and rocks. Even as children, all of us in the family used to go and pick up rocks and study them. Fascinating stuff. But going to college, studying geology about a year or so ago. More recently, I've been studying, taking a class in neuropsychology on a university campus, and there was a seminar I went to probably about 6 months ago, and they told us about pruning genes. I'd never heard of pruning genes in my life, but then that's kind of what life's about, isn't it? There's lots of stuff to learn. My older brother would say, you can't know enough about anything. And of course, the anything is really everything. There's so much to know about, right? I mean, gosh, there's just everything. I'm really saying that to be able to do things in life, you got to understand things. We learn to drive a car, we learn to maybe cook, to walk when we're really young. But the thing about pruning genes, well, they told us about how infants develop. Well, before they're even infants, they're inside the mother, right? And a cell about the size of a head of a pin, maybe. That's what I think. Maybe a little bit larger, but that bit of life then develops, starts to get, to come out, grow, and then little legs pop out and arms pop out. And in all the time that we're talking about those 9 months or so, the brain in that child is developing about 250,000 neurons per minute, until finally we get to have at least 100 billion in our brain. That's really, really daunting. If you doubt the math, just check it out. I just checked it out this morning to make sure I was talking correctly. It's a lot of development going on. Obviously the little piece of life is becoming bigger and changing and developing. And if you think about it, and I certainly had never thought about it very deeply, when the little legs are coming out, and then the arms and all the rest of the characteristics of what makes a human being, the brain is developing, and while it is developing, the connections are being made. Because this leg has to be connected to something that tells it it's a leg and how to move. Same with the arm, the eyes, all these parts of us. I found that an interesting seminar because we were introduced to a couple of young people, and I say that because they're rather young considering my own age. But one young man had been born a girl, and one girl had been born a boy, and they both had been changed through operations. And what that did for me at that point was make real and understandable what had happened to one of my friends so many years ago, probably 40 years ago. A man I knew, probably in his 30s, because that's what I was in my 30s at that time. He decided to become a woman. Just the memory of it was so daunting, startling if you will, because that was a rather new idea, at least for most of us. So this man was changed into a woman, and I never understood it. Never, really, because how can you understand something you don't experience yourself? It takes a lot of effort. But knowing about pruning genes, that as the brain is developing, there's really an abundance of neurons developing, and then later on some are pruned away. And in the process, if some of the connections that were supposed to be made that tells this leg to be a leg or this to be a right hand, myself, I was born left-handed. Something got a little bit crossed up, I would say. And some individuals that seem to be born as a male, a boy, somehow their connections are not quite right, because up here it doesn't seem right. They don't seem to feel like they're a boy. They really feel like they're a girl. Or the girl may look like a girl physically, but in the head, in the brain, thinks, no. And so now today, I guess more commonly, we have people who are changing their gender. I just wanted to share that with people because to me it was new. It may be new to you. Maybe the younger people are learning this in college already, but I just think it's information that should be out there, because I've heard so much about people who just can't figure it out with their own children. And of course, again, talking about my friend some 40 years ago, couldn't understand it until quite recently. I'm sure this is not the end of the story. There's just so much stuff we have to know. And, you know, a brain that's got 100 billion neurons and all the connections, there's an awful lot to learn, no matter what it is. But I talked about geology. Well, for so many years, we didn't know much about geology. We didn't know about the way the Earth had all these plates that were moving. All the information is important. Well, that's about all I can do this morning. I got to go out and do some chores. I'm kind of dressed up because it's cool outside. But as always, thanks for looking, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.